Hello and welcome to Butterfly Journeys Midlife Adventures, where we share real stories of travel, transformation and new beginnings. I'm your host, Joanna Filmer, and I want you to know that midlife is our time to step beyond expectations and to use travel or even a relocation as a powerful tool for rediscovery and reinvention.
Hey, soul
Let's go.
sister, I heard you made another man cry.
Hello, welcome Tammie. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. Where are you? And how are you feeling coming into this conversation with me today with the Midlife Butterfly?
Well, hi, Joanna. Thank you so much for having me. I'm in New South Wales, Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, which is 2 hours north of Sydney, for people who don't know.
What first awakened that desire to travel for you?
Well, it's really interesting because I had absolutely no desire to travel. So I can credit my mother, Cheryl, with the giving me the impetus to make me go overseas initially. I feel like I was a bit late. Well, I was 26 when I first went overseas, which is late today, in today's time, but maybe going back about the same amount of years, 26, 30 years ago, it wasn't as convenient to travel as it is now. But because I know you're in the UK and we have this reciprocal arrangement, I don't know if it still exists with Australia, the working visa. So I had this opportunity where you could go to the UK for 2 years, and lots of Australians did that. So that cut out at the end of 26, and my mum was pushing me. You've got to go, you're running out of time. I did not want to go overseas because I was 25, I was living at the beach on the Gold Coast. I was just living my best life. So, and then also my best friend since primary school, Katrina, she was going to come with me. But then she met this guy and she fell in love and she dumped me basically. So I was quite anxious to go on my own. So, but anyway, I did it. I went to the UK. I lived in Scotland in the Highlands for 18 months. I did one of those hideous top deck tours all around. Everyone's sleeping with the bus driver and there was lots of fights amongst the women. Someone was on their honeymoon on this top deck tour. It was nuts. I had to set up my tent every night. It was a camping one, but I shared a tent with Carla from Guadalajara and she was stunning. So she never came home. She was, but she was very good because she always helped me set up the tent and pull it down even if she didn't use it. So this was my first taster. I was so grateful to my mum for giving me this opportunity, for really pushing me. Because once I got to Europe, I could see, even though I was just having a little taster of all these different countries, and a taster of alcohol poisoning and a whole lot of other things that were going on at that time, I could see I wanted to come back and explore further. So that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, I think it's that first step into something that seems so huge, such a massive challenge that you've got to kind of really dig deep. But once you kind of get on that plane and you arrive, then you're like, that's in it. Because I guess it's a little bit of a sink or swim, isn't it? And all of us are adaptable and all of us can do it. That's what I love about travel. You can just throw yourself in somewhere and you will find the resources within you to do it. So you've had an interesting journey. What happened in midlife for you that made you walk away from where you were at and step towards where you are kind of now, sort of thing? Like that, where did it begin and why and how?
Well, it started in the same place it starts for lots of women, in a breakdown, basically. I was a social worker. I was a therapist for 17 years and I was just pretty depleted. So I was burnt out. And my wife, Vanessa, joined the Defence Force. So anyone who knows anything about the Defence Force knows that you have to move regularly. And at that time, I had a private practice counselling. And a lot of women on here will be entrepreneurs who've started businesses and they'll know how difficult it is to start, especially a shopfront business in location. So I realised I couldn't do that. I couldn't start a new business every 3 years. I was already really tired and I just needed a good lie down, but I couldn't figure out what to do. You know, I was like, well, I like gardening. Well, I become a gardener. And then, but you know, when you're really depleted, you have no resources for retraining. You can't even think. So I did need a good lie down. I basically just lied down in a yoga class for 6 months. I met yoga. I loved it. I started going to these regular classes, and it was then in that the healing of my parasympathetic nervous system that allowed me to start to think clearly again, because when you're really frazzled, you don't make great decisions or have good thought processes. So I kind of started to think about all the things that I loved doing and what did I want to do with the second half of my life. So I found this great book called The Passion Test, and it's old now, but you can still find it. So it's written by a husband and wife couple, and their surname's Atwood. And the beauty of it is that women are often good at a lot of things, but it also helps you to look at the things, discern what you're good at, that you enjoy doing. Because, yes, we're all good at caring, but do we want to be caring? Is that going to be, are we going to work in aged care? I don't know. I've done that. I really enjoyed it. But, so it gets you to, and also the other thing, because I've been a trainer in a past life too, is that sometimes women have too many ideas and they get sort of a bit uh, pulled in too many different directions. So this really helps you hone down and hone into what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and come up with your sort of top 5 things. So what happened for me was that I'd worked in a women's health centre for a long time as a counsellor, and I love working with women. I was loving yoga. I'd found this thing, and I love Bali. I used to go there a lot from Australia. It's a 6-hour flight, and I love mindfulness and meditation and travel. And so when I just looked at it all, my vision board, it was basically running a retreat. So this is 20 years ago. They weren't as common as they are now. Anyway, I just started running little mindfulness retreats in Bali, and out of that I also grew quite a following. But you can't do the same thing again and again. So I had to start coming up with other retreats, and then eventually they sort of morphed into sightseeing tours. And 15 years later, still a small company. We run about 15 tours a year. So that's how I started my tour company.
There's so many interesting kind of observations I take from that. Is one, that point when you hit burnout, when you can't make decisions and you need to step away. I love the idea of the passion test. I'm going to have to look at that. And I think that's a really good thing maybe that's a good suggestion for women who hit that point in midlife where they just kind of go, where am I? What do I want? Where am I moving forward to? When you launched this company, and your new projects, your retreats, what doubts or fears kind of came up for you, and how did you move through them?
The biggest fear is always that no one's going to come. Have you ever had a party, Joanna? No one's going to come. And I'm going to lose money. I'm going to look like an idiot, and I'm going to lose money doing it. So it's pretty scary. So a lot of women, have this idea. I'm not the only one. So yeah, my fear was just really that old chestnut failure, that it's not that it's not. But the good thing with this industry is there's not a lot of capital up front. You don't have to buy a lot of fancy equipment or, a venue or whatever. So yeah, fear of failure, fear of losing money, and that it just wouldn't work. And really, I didn't have any other ideas, Joanna, so it kind of had to work.
It's such an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's the fear of failure is huge, and it's that where do you go from there? So you get through the first one, and it obviously was a success. And then what happened then? How did you keep yourself on that path and not think, actually, this is all too much. I could give it up and go back to my old job where I can just get a great salary and carry on with the routine and the safety of having a job being paid a salary.
Anyone who's addicted to travel like I am, you'll know that it's just not something that you can give up easily, that freedom. And I found it exhilarating, and I love hanging out with women, and I feel like we don't have that connection enough. We kind of go through different life stages, and we offer what's available or of interest to us at the time. And I think because I got so much positive reinforcement, and I was in all of these beautiful countries. So I'm having a week before and a week after, and I was basically using it initially to fund my personal travel that I couldn't have otherwise afforded. So that's quite motivating to me. And I did that for 5 years and worked part time, still in social work, until I didn't have to do that anymore.
You've got to tenacious, you've got to resilient, you've got to keep on going. And actually, I think those are skills that women really have in spades most of the time because they do it in day-to-day life. And I just want to kind of flip back because I don't think there's anything wrong with having the security of a paid job. Because actually, when I went from having my own business in my 30s to then having a paid salary, it was amazing. I was so happy and relieved to know that every month I was going to be getting X amount of money. It was like a gift, you know. But then I came to the end of that cycle again, and I've flipped into the other side. So we're all different, and we all want different things. There's an ongoing process of transformation, isn't there? What suits us at one point in our life is not going to suit us at another stage in our life because we're constantly moving through that. How did you make sure that you wasn't going to deplete yourself again, like you'd experienced in your work before?
Now, being a counsellor, I really should take my own medicine. I know what I have to do, like most women, and I know the things that work for me, meditation and yoga practices. They're the things that sort of reset me and give me the space. I also know when we get busy and stressed that they're the first things to drop off. We let that stuff go. And doing the thing that I love probably the most about this is the dreaming up of the itineraries, the travel, create, the boring stuff of the web development, and even to some extent the social media marketing is I don't love it, but I like creating the flyers and, I like the creative aspect. So kind of just knew that if I focused on the things that I was really enjoying, and then eventually I got other people to do the other things I enjoyed less, that I'd be okay to keep going. And then as I have changed and not enjoyed things as much, like had health problems, I had a mini stroke and I had a few other things. I couldn't travel for a while. I had to get some other women in to escort my tours and help me out. So fortunately, through having this business, I created this amazing community of women that I could then draw on as well. So I feel well supported. I feel like it's not just a travel company. It's a community. I think having good support, good community, and knowing my boundaries and limitations so that when my health did change a bit, I had to change my style of travel as well. And I couldn't do some of the on the ground stuff anymore.
The power of community, that's something that you really start to feel and stretch into as you come into this age. I feel it becomes so much more important. And in business, whether it's the people that you're working with or the people around you, you need that. The other thing you talked about there was your health and being aware of your boundaries and knowing when you get to that point that actually this is not serving me. I'm going to exhaust myself. I need to kind of bring in the extra help and not feeling that you've failed in any way because you're doing that. In fact, you're actually giving yourself love. And I think that's one of the key things we start to learn, don't we, as we move into midlife, is we start to see the boundaries and we start to recognize when we're depleted and we start to know that we can ask for help and it's okay. And actually we can do things for ourselves in a much more loving way. We don't have to just keep pushing through. And it's okay to change things. If it doesn't work, we can change it. If it's not working, that's okay. We'll find another way. So travel then for you, how do you think it kind of helped you to connect to you? Do you think like in that journey of going through then into the retreats, do you think that's what helped you connect to a true self of you? Or was it just the new person that you were morphing into when you started this journey with the retreats and coming to where you are now?
I actually think it healed me because I was pretty shattered. And because I'd worked in, there's not really fun social work jobs. There might be, but pretty much you're dealing with trauma every day, crises and trauma. So, yeah, I had a lot of vicarious trauma. And so I think a little tip I'd give for women too is if they are in that place or very anxious travelers or just had a big grief thing happen to them or something, if you're looking at travel as a way to transform, I think choosing a nice, nourishing type of travel to start with is good because sometimes even on our tours, women, for example, maybe their partners will pass away. And within a couple of weeks, they're booking this big trip and they want to do all this stuff. And yeah, I understand why, but maybe that's for the next 6 months or next year. And maybe you need to do something a bit closer to home where you don't have to go so far, like a stepping stone kind of thing. I feel like we can have different types of travel. I did a Tai Chi retreat in Thailand, and different things that were going to fill me up still give me a little bit of that, the feels that I get from traveling, which is expansive. I feel, whenever I wake up in a new place and I open the door and I have a sniff and I taste the coffee and see the people in the street, I just find absolute joy. I was just thinking of Morocco then, and I know that you've been there not that long ago. So just, very heart opening. I find travel healing, and yeah, it just allows me to tap into something I just can't find in any other area of my life.
Yep, I completely and utterly agree with you. For me, travel is transformative, and that's why I want to spread this message and connecting with women like yourself who understand that and also want to create experiences for women. So, because for some women, they want to travel solo, but they're not quite sure where to start, and that's where I want to say to them, it's okay. You just have to start slowly, and you might just go locally, depending on what's going on in your life, and that gives you the confidence to start doing something on your own. Some people then want to go and travel, but they feel scared to go abroad. And then to go on a group travel, I think is amazing because there is a bit of a thing at the moment about solo travel. And I've talked to a few women about this, but I think actually going on a group travel is a really empowering experience as well because you have the community again and you're with a group of women. And like we talked about before, I remember you saying the women come away from there with new friendships and they've discovered new things about themselves. That's incredible to be able to go to a different country and make new friendships and discover things about yourself is such, like you said, it is healing. It's a healing because, and it's also a return to self. I honestly believe that travel in midlife is a way to reconnect with yourself and return to who it is, what you want, and find what it is that's going to give you joy now. What did you discover along your journey in this new part of your life with the travel and that what you didn't expect?
I think I'm such a control freak, Joanna. What's happened more in this life stage for me is that I've been able to enjoy travel a lot more without being so rigid about having everything pre-booked. And obviously for our tours, we have to book everything 18 months in advance. But even allowing other hosts to escort my tours, it's like my baby. I could make myself quite unwell and, by trying to push through, but by just allowing myself to relax. And I have to say, travel is easier than ever. When I first traveled overseas all those years ago, and I remember I got a bus from Glasgow to the Highlands that dropped me in the middle of nowhere at 8 o'clock at night with my boom box and my backpack. You remember I had this massive, I don't know what I was carrying, this massive radio thing, and no mobile phones, nothing. I'm just hoping someone's going to pick me up because they sent me a letter 3 weeks ago from this country club I was going to work at in the restaurant. And it was pretty stressful. I pretty much thought I was going to be murdered right then and there. That's the end of it. Better put a bit of Robbie Williams on, get the soundtrack going to my murder in the Highlands of Scotland. And also, I had a little torch and all I could see was this Yeti thing in the field. And I thought, that's it. Whatever that creature is going to kill me for sure, with all this hair. Anyway, when the lady picked me up, and I said, there's something in that field over there. It's just going to murder your whole village, today. And she said, okay, it's a coup. And I was like, oh, coup. I said, well, we don't have them in Australia. And she goes, oh, where do you get your milk from? And I was like, oh, a cow. And she goes, a cow. In the light of day, it all became apparent it was a Highland cow. But, there were these things. You had your Lonely Planet. If you wanted to book an apartment in France, you had to send a fax. Now, I've just got WhatsApp. I just rock up somewhere. My driver sends me a photo of himself or I can call him. Technology is so amazing and it makes travel so not as anxiety provoking anymore. I can book. Last time I went to Bali, I just waited for all these last minute deals on booking.com and I got places less than half price because I wasn't stressed about having it booked 3 or 6 months in advance. So, and I had a much better experience because then I could stay a bit longer somewhere. You can't always do that, in peak season or whatever, or if you've got a family or whatever. But I was just with my mum. So I think that's really liberating now for me that I'm not so controlling about all of the details and having a bit of flexibility with my travel plans.
It's funny because I was talking about, I actually wrote a blog about that. It's like kind of just letting go and just letting things flow. Because when the last trip I went to Morocco, I really didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go. And I was okay with it. We do have technology and can book anything within an hour, within 10 minutes. So it has changed that way that you can travel now. So I don't stress about it so much. You're exactly right. So for any woman that's sitting there worrying about how she might feel, or she might be alone, or she might be scared, when you are traveling now, you've got so many ways to connect with others around you. And if you're sitting in a room and you're scared to go out, you can phone someone and chat to them on the WhatsApp. Or if you don't like the hotel, I've had that. I've got to a hotel now and just gone, actually, I don't like this. Or there was an Airbnb and I was like, I don't feel safe here. I literally I walked out of the door, went straight back on the app and found somewhere else to stay. And that was it. I mean, you couldn't do that back in the day. It was I remember in India, we used to have the Lonely Planet. It was called the Bible. Bit of blasphemy there. But you'd get in a rickshaw and you'd go from hotel to hotel, whoever you was traveling with, and one would run in to see if it was okay. And then you would come back out again. That was how you booked your hotel because you had no other way to do it. Yeah, I think as you get into midlife, you discover so much more about yourself through travel and the way that you can travel now in the different way. What is fulfillment now then for you?
So I think possibly because I've been creating a lot of travel for other people and the travel market has changed a bit too for me now. There's like a lot of mass tourism. There's a lot of budget airlines now making things more accessible. It's a double-edged knife, and even though I run group tours, I am sort of moving more towards solo travel and trying to encourage people to visit some different places, not Barcelona or Japan during cherry blossom season. And I know it's on our bucket lists and we have these romanticized ideas about some places like Casablanca, but Casablanca is a commercial district of Morocco. That movie wasn't filmed there. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert.
Yes.
So I think I'm just in a bit of a reflective mood for myself around travel, how I can ethically contribute to the communities that I visit. And if I can't, well, we're not going to do it anymore. So I'm just rethinking all of that. And I haven't come to a good conclusion about it yet, but I'm in that process.
I love that. I love the idea of thinking how you can give back. So for women then who feel like their sparkle may have dimmed, and what's one piece of advice then that you would give to someone to help them kind of like reawaken? If they're sitting there listening to this and they're feeling like, oh, I can't do it, or I'm just not there, or I haven't got the energy, I haven't got the time, or I'm not confident. What would you say to that woman to say, hey, this is what you can do?
Just think of that quote. I think his name's William Shedd. I'm not sure. But it's that boats are safest in the harbour, but that's not what they were built for. So that also has sort of a double edge in that, you have this one precious life and we're at an age where we can see it slipping through our fingers. So, and I think also with the wake up of the pandemic, some of us in middle age and beyond, we lost a couple of travel years. So, things happen. Illnesses happen. We can wait. We can sit in our comfort zone watching the Discovery and travel shows. That's great. I read all memoirs and travel books. That's great too. But really, there is nothing that replaces going yourself, following something that you've dreamed of. And sometimes there's always this thing that a lot of women say to me, like, I always wanted to go here since I was a little kid, like something. I saw the windmills on Mykonos and it just planted something. And, of course, there's the pyramids, and that's a big one. So many women cry when they see these monuments because it's just this big thing. So I just think yes, it's safe to be in your comfort zone, but things happen at any time. And I just think also, if you're feeling a bit anxious, you can try and get a buddy to go with you, or sometimes looking back in your old photograph albums at, that time. A lot of women had a lot of travel younger, more than me, so if they, like you said, that return to self, they go back and they saw themselves Koh Samui with the coconuts, 21, and that, I was just living my best life. Maybe that might re-spark some wanderlust.
Absolutely. Brings that energy back. I mean, it's like a battery for me. It's like I'm literally about to move again because I'm based in the UK for now because I need to be here, and I can't wait because I know that when I get there, I get like this rush of energy just because I'm somewhere different. The smells, the sounds, the people, the environment, everything, the food, you just kind of start to come alive again, don't you? So anyone who's sitting there waiting, you're right. We're in midlife, is there's no word for after midlife. I'll sit in midlife for as long as I can, and when I've got my health, I'll keep traveling for as much as I can as well. I wanted to ask you about where you're at now because you're actually launching something that's so exciting. Okay, Tammie, I'd love for you to share about where you are now and what's going on because you're just about to launch something that's really exciting and that I'm actually super, super keen to hear about and for you to share with listeners.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to try not to make it sound like an infomercial, but we are launching a homestay accommodation platform for women. So think of it like Airbnb, but for women that wouldn't normally use Airbnb. It's only your spare rooms, so not whole vacation rental houses or anything. We just wanted to give women who an opportunity to monetize their spare rooms, also to have more connection and community because maybe they don't need the money, but they're a bit lonely. I don't know. But what happens is on our tours, we have a lot of women come early, stay longer. And they often say, so will you book me into the hotel or where can I stay for an extra 3 nights? Accommodation is expensive. So we're trying to find affordable, safe accommodation options for women that have a bit of built-in community and connection. So even hostels are expensive these days. I don't know if you've stayed in a hostel recently, but it's quite expensive. Most of our hotels are $300 a night on our tours, and that's like 3-star. So what, you want to stay an extra 3 nights, that's like $900. So then they'll say, oh, look, I found this Airbnb in Mumbai in this area with this guy. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea to arrive at 2 a.m. to Mumbai to, or whatever. So I've been thinking about it for a few years, but we're just in the process of gathering all these beautiful hand-picked hosts from, yoga teachers in the Himalayas, and we've got artists in Tasmania, and we've got also artists in Morocco. And so there's this option within the accommodation to add a little service. So if you are a masseuse and you want to offer a massage for a fee or an airport pickup or something else that you do, even renting like beach towels and beach umbrellas and a chiller box if you're somewhere on the coast and people aren't going to have these things, and maybe you'll just let them use them. But, there's these, maybe you've got an office that someone can use, for a week. So it's community, it's homestay, it's allowing women to share their spaces with other women in hopefully creating just more of a sense of community. And also because it's not entire vacation places and it's not all corporations or co-hosts that now run Airbnb. Hopefully we can still support that, keeping community together and keeping housing available for people who need to live in these communities all the time.
I love it. I think it's such an amazing concept, and I really would want to go on and use that type of accommodation, because the most important thing I think women would think about is safety, because we're never quite sure. Like I said earlier about arriving in an Airbnb and not feeling safe at all, so I'd walked out. I like the fact that you will know who's offering the accommodation, because how will you, I think we talked about it before, but maybe share with the listeners, how will they know that it's been checked, or how do you know that they're safe people?
So there's different verification process for the guest, the renter, and the host. So you need to provide physical ID, selfie with an ID. And if you're a host, you also need to provide documentation with your address, your name and address, like a utility bill, something like that. Then once we check that, you actually have to be known to our community. So referred by a friend, someone who knows us, who's been on a trip or knows one of our hosts or something. Or if you are on another platform and you have 5 or more reviews, we'll also accept that. Otherwise, we have to do a video chat with you at your place of residence. We can't 100% guarantee that everything will be, maybe you won't get along, or there could be something else that would happen. But in terms of verifying the guest and the host and their premises, we've got quite a strict process about that. And it's more onerous than any of the other accommodation platforms that I'm aware of.
It's so important for those people that feel nervous and want to travel somewhere, and there may be different things that are kind of stopping them from going. This actually gives them an amazing and incredible place in which to stay that's been safely reviewed, has been verified, and they can also choose different types of women to go and stay with. It's an amazing idea, so I'm really excited about this for you. I'm excited for the women that are going to be a part of this as well. It's such a community thing as well for women. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm in there with you. I'm loving it.
I was just thinking too, we're just onboarding all of these female hosts in small villages in Nepal at the moment. And so we've kind of hooked up with them, and we've created even some tours and circuits. So you can go between, have a few nights in Pokhara, a few nights in Kathmandu, a few nights in Namo Buddha. And then we also are bringing on experiences. And so we have the drivers that we vetted that can take you from place to place, and some tour guides and activities. And there's a big singing bowl, sound healing place just outside Kathmandu where you can go and do workshops for a couple of days. So we're kind of looking at how, for solo travellers, we can support them to create even a whole trip out of these homestays in different countries. India also, especially in the north, in the Himalayas, we've got some beautiful homestays up there, and they're affordable. It's very affordable. So, that's really nice, making it more accessible, and not just to middle-aged women either. What about all the gap year girls? They're not having much safety, there's safety issues, concerns for them as well. And I just had some students do a research project on our new platform, and what they noticed for the 18 to 35 age gap is that one of their big fears is falling ill, which in travel, and mum won't be there. What am I going to do? I won't know what to do. And feeling lonely and not being able to make friends, and
I think,
then
yeah,
all of
it's
the safety stuff.
it's an amazing initiative. I think that's really interesting as well. I think it was a parent, if your daughter said she's going to go off to somewhere that you have no idea about, and you're worried about them, this is also another option that you could maybe speak to them, your child, about. Say, actually, this is actually a good option for you, because you can solo travel, but you've got this space, these spaces that you can stay that have been verified. Some parents, they may feel that that's an extra security blanket for their children as they set off, especially into some countries and different cultures that they have no experience of or knowledge. Yeah, exciting times. Okay, the last question that we ask all my guests: if you could give your younger self at the moment at which she started to hear that kind of sense of change coming in, what would be the message from where you are now back to that Tammie who was, I don't know, maybe the one where you went into the start of this huge change, or maybe it was the 26-year-old one. Which one would you talk to and why?
So many. There's just the obvious one that you want to say to yourself, just do it. Just don't have so much angst about it. It's not, even if it did fail or it does fail, you can just change tack. But I think it's back to the boats are safest in the harbour thing, in that I think your comfort zone can be comforting and really lethal. So I just to be brave. Be brave. That's the message. Step outside of your comfort zone and leave space for something unexpected, because I am a control freak and I am a planner, but allow for the unexpected. Just leave half an hour a day in your schedule where look around, something unexpected. Oh, there's a monkey. I don't know what it's going to be, but when you're very rigid, some of the magic goes in that scheduling. So yeah, just allow for some magic.
Absolutely. I love that. What a great way to finish this wonderful conversation. Allow for the magic. Step out of your comfort zone, let the unexpected in, and grow with that. Tammie, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I'm really excited to see where this new project goes. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanna. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Butterfly Journeys Midlife Adventures with me, Joanna. Until next time, may you keep awakening, emerging, and evolving on your own midlife butterfly journey. Follow the podcast, hit subscribe, and share it with your fellow midlife butterflies. And if you have a story to share, reach out. My emails and DMs are in the show notes. I would love to hear from you. Your journey could inspire another woman.